My name's Kenny Dyal, and welcome to Season 2 of the Scuba Diving Podcast.
I get this from a lot of new divers when I'm trying to talk to them about going deeper and stuff. And like, why go deeper? It's just the same stuff, but it's deeper. And I've heard a lot of people that just don't have any desire to go any deeper. But
wait, you have people asking you
why would I want to go to? Yeah, why would I want to go deeper? What's the difference?
What's deeper to you?
What's deeper? Under 100 feet.
Oh, under 100 feet is shallow to you?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, so the cutoff line would be 100. So 100 feet and up is, relative. It's not shallow, but it's mid-level, whatever. Going past 100 feet, I think there is a significant difference, both physiologically, both the biology that you see underwater, the effects that it has, the physics that you're dealing with. I enjoy going deeper for a lot of different reasons, but it's sometimes hard to explain if you haven't done it. But I'm curious what your thoughts are. I mean, do you like just staying in that, 100 to, 60, 45 range, or do you ever have a desire to go a little deeper than that?
Well, let me clarify first. To you, deeper dives are beyond 100.
Correct.
And you're
yes.
saying, for this sake, shallower dives are shallower than 100.
Generally people are talking about 60 feet, and shallower being, shallow dives. And that's true, but once you've been diving for a while, down to 100 feet is kind of where that, most people are relatively comfortable going to that. It's past 100 feet where it can get a little bit, and the question I get is, well, why would I even bother? What's the reason for going deeper than that? And there are a lot of people who have gone deeper than that and don't enjoy it. It's an interesting conversation to have because...
Wait, is there a thrill element to just knowing you're deeper? Do you feel like you're further into this unknown world?
There is. There's, I like exploring. One of the reasons I got into diving is I enjoy exploring. And when you're in the 100 and shallower, most divers have no problem going there. You go deeper than that, and you're starting to get into a little more rarefied air. You're getting to places people haven't necessarily gone, or at least not that many. You're seeing things that most people in the world will probably never see, and it's kind of cool. And you see stuff that's deeper. You also have a different effect on your body. Number one, you're breathing through your gas a whole lot faster, which is something you got to be available. Or you got to be... Don't start with me. Don't start with me, son.
Number one. All right.
Stop. Anyways, the second thing is you see a whole lot bigger animals. I mean, you do. Like, if you dive deeper... Usually. And it's not 100%, but generally, when you're in the Keys doing a 25 to 40 foot dive, you're not going to see really big animals. It's rare. You can, and it's not like it never happens, but it's much rare. You get down to 130 feet, if you're on a ledge with around 130 feet or deeper, you're going to see some big animals down there. That's pretty likely on that.
So you believe that overall, with a few exceptions, the deeper you go, the bigger the wildlife gets.
Correct. And I think there's a good reason for that. You get more of the pelagic animals, you get the ones that, venture off the reef some, and so you've got that kind of cool stuff down there, which you're just not going to see on a reef, or at least it's not very likely. You may every once in a while, but it's very unlikely. The big sharks, the big fish. I mean, you see a grouper on a reef. You may see the same animal, but when you see a black grouper that's maybe, 10, 20 pounds on a reef versus, a big old Goliath grouper down 130 feet down, and it's 600-700 pounds. That's a different in order of magnitude. We're not talking, it is a different animal. I mean, obviously a Goliath grouper is, but...
So you think deeper, by exceeding 100, you get to see bigger animals, it exposes more, but you admit that there's a thrill element to it.
There's no question.
There's a going past the known world.
Right, it is.
So to speak.
If you think about it, most people, not everybody, but most people when they're first getting into diving, that's what they're doing. They want to see something that you usually can't see, that most of the world doesn't see because we're terrestrial animals. But you get to go into the ocean like this, you see stuff you don't usually get to see. This is kind of the next step from that is most divers in the 30, 40, 50 foot range you're going to see all that stuff. You take that group of people and you now narrow it down even smaller and you say, okay, we're going a little bit deeper. Now, there are things that come with that. Again, you've got the gas that you're going to be breathing a lot quicker. Dealing with nitrogen narcosis is another thing you have to deal with. That hits everybody differently, but it is definitely something you need to be aware of. You're dealing with sometimes stronger currents. You're dealing with different visibility than you would maybe somewhere else because the light's different, which some of that could be fixed, and that's part of the experience.
I had somebody say something that seemed very strange to me.
What was that?
I heard something that was odd. This always kind of rubbed me wrong, kind of annoyed by this. They said it was a deeper dive. This was the Vandenberg off Key West to the deck, which is around 96 feet. So you're going to get to most of the dive is between 60 and 100, 80 to 90.
That range I was kind of talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, hey, can we do nitrox on that? Stay a little longer.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, we don't do nitrox on that because it's so deep. And I'm like, they say, oh, you'll run out of air. And I'm like, first of all,
thing I have ever heard.
the air consumption can double or triple with different people, literally. Like a brand new scare
this
diver.
This wasn't a dive boat?
This was the dive boat operator, the head honcho. This was years ago, and I'm like, what do you mean it's just as long? There's a lot of problems with that. One, there's a safety issue.
There are so many issues with that.
They say that, and as of a few years ago, they were still saying this.
That is the dumbest thing I have
And I think their
ever
thought
heard.
is, with the divers that aren't practiced, that don't dive, the tourists in Key West that only dive a couple times a year, it probably takes their workload down because they do run out of air before their bottom time hits.
Right.
Because they're all diving aluminum 80s.
Right.
Their thought is, well, you're going to come up for an hour anyways and go back down. And that literally was so awfully wrong and just, it is almost misleading, but they were saying it like they believe it.
Oh, not misleading. That is wrong.
Even if all of that was true, and even if it didn't prolong their dive time, which that's fine, you could say that. But now you got somebody coming up at the maximum of their nitrogen load on a deeper dive, which dramatically increases the risk, especially if you're already talking new divers.
Right.
They're not as good at controlling their ascent. They're not as good at remembering to watch their air or anything like that. They can let go of something real quick and go flying up. And I'll get there's mooring balls, but we've all had that where the mooring ball isn't the end-all be-all of a safe ascent.
I got a good story on that one.
Yeah, I know you do. I think we talked about that one.
We're not on here, we haven't. But that'll be another one we'll have to do.
And I think when there's a downline to a shipwreck, like a deeper shipwreck, we see this a lot in the Keys. I think there's a false sense of safety where you go, okay, I'm on a downline, I don't have to worry about ascent rates. I've actually found that people go up like this and end up going up faster.
Yep.
Then what happens when they let go? And there's usually a strong current and so on and so on. Back to the nitrox thing.
Yeah.
That was a shocker for me.
Well, let me say this about that. And I don't want to just say that those people are stupid or bad, but I have to say they're either stupid and just should not be running a dive boat. They are intentionally misleading or just lying.
So they don't have to deal with filling nitrox.
Right. Which is either
maybe,
one of those
maybe they
is
had
a really, really bad thing.
I actually had 2 different operators say that in Key West. There are several over
They
the
should
last
not-
15
yeah,
years.
They should not, like, someone needs to call them out because that is the kind of BS that should not be out there. I mean, I can debunk that in about 30 seconds here.
Go.
Number one, nitrox gives you less nitrogen while you're on that dive. You clearly can do a dive down to 100 feet with 36% since 40% is 100-foot gas at a 1.6 partial pressure. You to 1.4 even, you still are probably pretty good with 36%.
You're still in your
and
30%.
You definitely could do 32%. Either way, you are much safer doing that and less likely to get bent, especially on a deep dive, and as you said, with new divers. Just because you're not staying down as long, that assumes that the dive tables and everything else are fact. They're not. They're a fiction that we use to help us better understand the way our bodies are absorbing nitrogen. But it's not an ironclad rule. So
They're theoretical.
They're theoretical. The more you can decrease the nitrogen that you're absorbing, the better, under every circumstance there.
Right.
And so that is just a stupid thing for them to say, or they are intentionally lying, and either one is just bad.
They
Like,
don't want
that's
to
just
deal with the
terrible.
O2
Right.
banks, the fillers.
They don't want to deal with the O2 banks or whatever. That's
Analyzers.
just, it's crap. That pisses me off when I see that stuff because.
Yeah, well, it pissed me off because I was running a group.
Yeah, no, that
And
would
like
make
you
me
can't
very,
the
very
problem is you're in a situation where you can't argue with them.
Right.
And so it's like
Yeah, especially if you got a group, you're like, sorry guys, I'm going to argue with him and we're not going to be able to do our dive, but that's just dumb or just nefarious, and I'm not sure which one it is.
We even say use nitrox on your shallower dives where you're not going to get anywhere near your maximum
Right.
dive time, because in the event of an emergency where you did have to shoot up, or any emergency whatsoever.
The less nitrogen you have, the better.
Correct.
In every circumstance. There's
Also-
no
right.
question about that.
Also,
Like,
someone goes a little too deep or stays down a little too long or lets
there's
go
an
and-
emergency down
yeah.
there and you have to deal with it. Like, the less nitrogen you have, the better. It's just.
But it also assumes poor air consumption. You don't know
Right,
that.
exactly.
Like-
I mean, I can stay down at.
If it was
90
you, they would be correct. But like if I was going, it would be insulting.
I was waiting for it. I knew it was coming somewhere in there. That's completely false, but that's all right. I'm not even gonna, you know what? I'm not even gonna get pulled into that. I'm not even gonna get pulled into that because you can edit it out anyway.
See,
so
if I say you're an air hog, they have no way of knowing whether or not that's true. He's an air hog.
I'm not. I'm definitely not. But that's beside the
Oh,
point.
when you wear those giant water heaters.
All right. What is that?
Thanks for listening or watching if you're on one of the supported video platforms. If you want all things Sweetwater, like a signed copy of my children's book, merch like this shirt or the hat, online courses, or if you want to advertise for your dive facility, if you just want to follow us, go to sweetwaterscuba.com. You can follow my TikTok at Kenny_Dyal, KENNY_DYAL. Our Instagram account, Sweetwater_Scuba. Of course, the Down to 60 channels on all major platforms, and everything else we're doing to lift the underwater world. Thanks for being here, and let's show the rest of the world.